So today we are going to talk about the legacy that each of us will leave behind. But as we do that, I just want to remind us of the milestones that we have hit and the progress that we have made. So I'd like to share my screen with you for a second and just quickly say, wow, we have started this program. We said this is a CPR program that's going to bring you comfort, peace, and restoration for your head, heart, and hands. That this will employ every part of you to make a difference in your 2025. I always tell you on my version, I put what I'm tired of doing and what I'm trying to do in this program. By now, you should have completed um, 6 of the 9 spaces on page 2, which is our declaration page. You should have also completed 14 of the 21 questions that we've presented to you. Each day, you are to write down your answer, you are to improve it. You're seeing my scribbly scratch, but um, I, every day alongside you, am making sure that I am answering these questions. So we've got 6 of 9 declarations, we've got 14 of 21 questions. We are 2/3 of the way through. So, as we start on this day 15, I am going to remind you that our theme for this week, as we close this out, is what will you achieve and who will you be this year? It is a powerful question, and it is part of what I'm going to refer to when we get to our question for the day. But before I do that, I was reflecting on this program. A friend of mine reminded me that when I was in corporate America, we did this program called Franklin Covey. And if there's anybody here who did the Franklin Covey system, would you just tell me so I know that I'm not the only older one? Um, and also, I want you this morning, I'm just realizing as we start this day, if there's anything that's good that's going on for you today, share it in the comments. I find life from feeling and hearing good things from you, whether it's something that you expect to happen, something that's already happened, or something that you're going to call into order to happen. Be sure to share it in the comments, whether you're live or you come in later. I react and respond to that, and I absolutely love it. So in the Franklin Covey system, it was all about productivity and planning our days and getting the most out of it, not just doing the actions, but also having impact. And one of his, Dr. Stephen Covey is the author of the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and part of this system. And one of the things that he wrote about in the book of the 7 principles was principle number 2, which is begin with the end in mind. And it simply meant that you have to have a clear idea of where you're going and what you're trying to accomplish. It makes all the sense in the world. And so this morning, I'm trying to remind us of this importance of knowing where we're going before we even get there. But as I think about the Covey system and beginning with the end in mind, um, Karen says, nobody's looking at what I'm wearing. Well, you should be. I'm supposed to be a fashion icon. Not. My husband told me I'm not a good dresser, but I do not receive that. Anyway, there's an exercise that we do in the whole heart world, and that is called Say Their Names. And it really is about looking at the legacy that people have left for us and making sure that we say their names to recognize them. So, as we came into this conversation, I said, I want to really begin to look at the legacy that you're leaving. But I think it always helps us to be able to look back and see what we have learned from. There are people, they may not have taught a class, but by their actions, the way they treated us, what they did, they taught us everything we needed to know about life. And I want to recognize those folks. So with Say Their Name, one of the things that we do is we think about people who have passed on, who impacted us in some way, that now, even though they are not physically here, their legacy absolutely lives on. And so today, I want you to think about 1 or 2 people who, because they lived, you were able to live intentionally, fearlessly, and expectantly. Because they lived, you changed the way that you might have done things and did it in a better way, in a more effective way. Because they lived, they became part of the fabric of who you are today and actually where you're headed. When I think about the legacy that was left for me, I immediately think of my two grandmothers. In fact, let me share my screen for a quick second. And what I'm going to do is share a picture with you. And so on this top picture, on the top left-hand side, you will see a picture of my maternal grandmother, Rosalie Knight Jones. And me and my sister and my mom lived with her from the time I was 8 to the time that I was 16, and she passed away. Oh my goodness, it's making me emotional because when I think about the legacy, I always think my grandma Rose was grace personified, like the way she carried herself, the kindness that she treated everyone with. I think she had great beauty, both internally and externally. In this picture, you will see right beside her is my grandfather, Kersey Jones, and then beneath her, it's a composite picture I did with my mom first, and then my Uncle Kersey, my Aunt Flora, and my Aunt Joyce. And so this picture always makes me smile. The light that my grandmother radiated on our family still touches my soul. And one of the things that I think we think about when people leave a legacy is how they made us feel. And my grandmother Rose made me feel seen and loved. And for a little girl who grew up and struggled with self esteem, having someone who just made you feel like you were the most important part of their world was priceless. So that's my grandma Rose. And then my other grandmother is in the middle of this picture, my grandmother, Minnie Adelaide Dixon Hall. She is the matriarch of the Hall family. And um, for the gentleness that was my mother's mother, the fierceness of my father's mother is what it carries through to me, which is funny because my mom was a firebrand, not like her mother. And my dad, although people don't know it, was more gentle, which was not like her mother, his mother. But the beauty of my grandma Adelaide, who is surrounded by her 8 children, my father is on the right hand side. But the beauty of her was that she spoke her truth. She was unapologetically who she was. I remember when I was 16 years old and my dad made me mad and I stopped speaking to him. And she absolutely positively told me what I would and not do in this family. And can I tell you that I listened to her because she taught me what respect meant. She taught me to respect her first and foremost as an adult in my life, but also to respect myself. And so those days when I am a fighter, when I speak up for myself, when I am unapologetically Denise, it is the legacy of Minnie Adelaide Dixon Hall that I carry. So my question for you, did you share some of the folks with us who impacted you? Who are the people who have passed on, but sometimes when you look in the mirror, you see their faces because maybe you look like them. Sometimes when you act a certain way, you say, absolutely, that is so and so. Or sometimes um, when you have a moment and you think, that's my friend that's coming through in me, I miss her, and here's the legacy that she left for me. Is anyone at all willing to share someone who has passed on but still lives because they live in the way they impacted you? As you do that, the other thing that I want to say is legacy isn't just somebody who's passed on. The beauty of legacy is there are people who are in our lives right now who are still alive, who absolutely positively impact us. And when they pass on, they will continue living through their interactions with us and the ways that they have changed us. Here's the thing that we often reflect when somebody dies, like, wow, this is how they impacted me. And in that moment, we wish we had one more conversation where we could say, I really thank you. I really, really appreciate what you did and who you are in my life. And so I see there's one, Rose Cheney, who said Miss Adelaide was awesome. She sure was. And Rose Cheney is one of those folks who I look up her as some role model, a role model for me who taught me the beauty and the commitment and the reward of community service, that I could look to her and say, if she could still be contributing and doing things at her age when she's already done more than enough to have a legacy, then I know that I am committed to keeping on going. The thing about it is that when someone's passed on, we don't have the chance to have that conversation. But when somebody is still here, you have the chance to have the conversation. So whether you put their name in the chat or you write it on your worksheet, what I'm going to say to you is this: when you get a chance in the next couple of days, call that person and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that this is how you impacted my life. I think it is so very important that we give people their flowers now. So, Miss Rose, I thank you for that because you have been an awesome role model. And if you think about it, some of us at times can spend time criticizing other people, saying what they should have done, throwing shade. But what if we substituted that behavior, which is really speaking death, to the kind of behavior that says, you know what, instead of engaging in that, every day I'm going to call somebody just to say either a thank you or I'm thinking of you. It is amazing what you will do for other people, because I find oftentimes with my clients that people are just waiting for somebody to give them something positive to pour into them. So I think it's amazing what it will do for them. But can I tell you something? It will do even more for you. Pouring into someone else has this reciprocal benefit that is priceless. So I have one person said, Ethel Louise Johnson, my guardian angel. I think that says whole heart, but I think that's Precious. Thank you, Precious. And I absolutely love that you have a guardian angel. Cynthia says, my older sister Mildred. And here's what I'm going to ask you all to do. As you think of those people that have the impact, ask yourself why. What is it they embodied? What is it they did? How did they make you feel that allowed them to have an impact still beyond the grave? Because when you understand that why, it'll often tell you a little bit about the legacy that you want to leave, because it's something that's really important to you. It might not be the exact same thing as that person did, but it begins to walk you down the road in terms of the path that you want to go. So Edwina said, Edith Howard Stewart, my mother, grace personified. I get you, I hear you. Sherry says, my mother and grandmother. Rose says, my parents, Emerson and Ethel Dorsey. And I have heard so many great stories. I was so proud to meet your dad and knew that he was a fire starter. He just had energy and character, and I can see that in you. Barbara says Bishop Alexander Hardy Jr. and Anthony Walker. And again, if you tell me too, if you get a chance, also tell me why. I forgot to ask you that at first, because I want to know what qualities and traits are important to you. Janice said, my parents and grandparents. Um, Cynthia said, I wish I could call Mildred. I miss her. And that's the reason, too, that when we say the names of the people who are still living and we say, oh, I'll call so and so tomorrow, tomorrow is not promised. I work in the funeral industry. I can tell you that for sure. But today, in this moment, you have an opportunity to reach out. Lois says, my mom, Alma Freeman. I look so much like her as I get older. And that's the reason why, Lois, I'm saying if you look in that mirror, you're like, oh my goodness, I see her. And it's in a good way. It's funny because after my mom died, I looked in the mirror and I saw freckles. And the freckles that my mom had were such a beautiful part of her face. And for me to see it, it was this connection immediately that made my heart smile. And then Karen said, my maternal grandmother who passed, and my pastors who are still alive. So Karen, you said, right, you're going to call your pastors today and say, and I know you probably already told them, but once again, I want to thank you because this is the impact that you made. Don't just thank them. Actually say, this is the impact that you have made on my life, and watch what it can do. All right. That being said, can you guess what the question is for today? So today, here it is, day 15, when we say we are focused on who we want to be and what we want to achieve in 2025. What I'm challenging you to do is to begin with the end in mind. And as we begin with the end in mind, I want to see, where are you headed? And it's not just for me. When I say legacy, I am speaking of eternal, that way beyond your life in this world, when you're gone, someone will say, she was my grandmother. And this is, one day I'll have grandkids, and I hope that they'll say that I impacted them like my two grandmothers did. Or someone will say, she was my friend, and she would just call me out of the blue or come and pick me up and say, let's go for a ride. It's not always about money. It oftentimes is just about time spent and love shown. And I think we have such an opportunity to show love, and that's exactly what the world needs. I should write a song. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. I think I could make some money from that. Precious says, my great grandma Ethel Louise, because of her heart, service, and value of family. That is beautiful. And then Mary said, great aunt Johnny Mae Blackston taught me family values that I instilled in my children. And look at that. Here, her great aunt did this, instilled this, and then Mary then instilled it in her children. That legacy is the pass through, that it comes to me from someone else and I give it over. And it's the gift. It's not the negative things. Nobody is saying, oh, she talked about everybody, or oh, she fought people and beat them up. They talk about ways that somebody inspired, loved, and cared for you. And that, my friends, is a legacy. So the question for today is, what is the legacy that I want to leave for the world? And so the world really is anybody that I leave behind. After the time that you pass from this world, what is the legacy? What is the things that you want people to say about you? What are the things that you want them to feel because you lived? So the question again is, what is the legacy that I want to leave for the world? And I really do want you to write down what you immediately think, what comes to mind, but really, really take time to reflect on this today, to think about it. And as you think about it, think about the things that were most important to you. When I say that my maternal grandmother made me feel seen, um, I think that's really important. The ways that I can make people feel seen is something that I want to leave in terms of a legacy for someone else. But yet there are facets of my personality that has nothing to do with my grandmother's. So in addition to wanting to be seen and also be unapologetic in believing who I am, getting something from both grandmothers, maybe there's one more aspect that I want to add to that in terms of the legacy. And I would say in this moment, if I had to answer it, I would say that the legacy is, I want to help people learn, grow, and heal. That is what we do at Whole Heart. And I know that you can't take that for granted. I've seen people die because they didn't take the opportunity to heal, whether it was from a physical disease or a mental struggle, that people will die if they don't learn how to learn, grow, and heal. So I think this work is absolutely necessary. And I think that for you, there are some things that are absolutely necessary. So begin to think on what it is that will be your legacy and complete that as we walk into day 16. Whoa, tomorrow, this is our last week. But that's okay. It's not a sad thing. This is a beautiful thing because we've been able to work through this together. Now, I mentioned yesterday that I wanted to um, offer to some of you, you don't all have to do it, that we're going to do, I'd like to do a special commemoration of our time together by having you create a physical board, what I call a word board, where you put some of your declarations on it, some of the things that you've learned. I'm asking you even today to go back and read the 6 declarations you've made and the 14 answers that you've already given, and reflect on it. Reflect on whether you still agree with it, whether you want to add something to it, and also reflect on how far you've come in these 15 days. It is something to be acknowledged and admired. And that's the reason why when we create this word board, it will stay with us. My friend Celeste, one time, she came in my office and I have all these motivational sayings and quotes. And I was struggling that day. And she said, can I ask you something? She said, do you ever read all this stuff you have up on the wall? And something as simple as remembering that, I thanked her for bringing it to my awareness and bring back to my memory, because as I looked around and saw all the great things that I had poured into myself, it spoke to what I was feeling in that moment. That's what I'm hoping that the word board will do for you, that you'll print it out or you'll make something, and then you'll look and you'll say, that's me. And that's where I'm going in 2025. And absolutely nothing or no one is going to stop me. So I did want to show you a quick example just in case. Um, this is not the be all end all, but sometimes people need to have literal examples. So what I did is I took the declaration board and I just made it look like a puzzle. And I said, what I could do is in each part of that puzzle, go in and write the declaration that I made. It's very simple, easy to do. You actually can even go to the store and get a 9-piece puzzle that's blank, and you could actually write it with your hands or, paste on copies of what you said. So it can be as simple as taking that declaration page and putting your statements there, or you may say, I want something that's more visual. And so if I were to create something visual, I started working on that I know that my word is light. I want to look to the light, reflect the light, and be light. So I put that at the top of the page. I chose an image that reflected light. I put a picture that I liked of myself where it said, you can make it through this. And then I said, 2025, Dr. Denise Rollins' best year yet. So I'm speaking life to myself. And then I figured I'd put a little few quotes around here, maybe some pictures um, that would help and serve me to remind me of what we're doing. So I'm telling you that because I don't want you to you feel like you have to copy me, but I'm just showing you that these may be some things that you could work on if you want to commemorate this 21 days. And again, it's an option, as is everything in this program. At the end of the day, this is about serving your needs. Now, let's go back to the question and let me say one final thing. And that is, when I say, what is the legacy that you want to leave for 2020? I mean, what is the legacy you want to leave for the world? I don't want any of you to get caught up in trying to have the perfect answer, to sound great, to look great, because I think that's what holds us back too. We are so busy worried about what we're projecting that we're not getting to the heart of the matter. So it might not look sexy or cute, but I want you just to write what comes first to your heart and your mind. And if you do that, it will lead us to where we're supposed to go. That's all we're asking from you, progress and not perfection. So keep reminding yourself of that. In the meantime, some exercises like the Say Their Name exercises in the workbook, you can get that on Amazon with put Wholehearted Life workbook and Dr. Denise Rollins. Until tomorrow, I hope that you will have a phenomenal day. And if you need us, reach out to us. We're always going to be here. All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you and send you much love and peace.